So guys, in the last lecture, right, we were talking about the Azure Event Hub. So first thing, if anyone here who is coming in this lecture for the first time, I would suggest you to go and watch the step-by-step videos, the Azure 900 videos, the Azure 204 videos, right? Even though if you don't watch it, even if you just sit in the class today also with a proper mindset, I would still be revising some basics, so that should also really help you to pick up, right? Now, this is a question out here. And if you remember in the last lecture, so let's go through the question. First, let's go through the question. Okay, thank you very much. So guys, this answer I had answered in the previous lab out there, in the previous lecture. But in case, I would just, today my goal is to show the demo also, right? So Azure Event Hub and partitioning, that's the question around it. Now, very quickly, I want to just make a point here. There is a difference between Azure Event Grid. So we have a concept called as the Azure Event Grid. We have a concept called as so one is Azure Event, another one is Azure Event Hub, right? Both of them are a bit different. And remember, the queues concepts are different. So we also have the concept of queues that is different, right? Azure Event Grid is a publisher subscriber model. So what happens in this case is that, there is a publisher out here, he publishes things, and there are subscribers who actually subscribe to the publisher, right? So this event grid is more like proactive. He sends a message, he can also send to the message to the subscriber. But in case of an event hub, actually, the publisher sends a message to the hub, the Azure Event Hub, but the subscriber has to actually pull from it. It is not more of a push. Means like Event Grid actually pushes it to the subscriber, but here it is more of a pull. Somebody has to pull it from here, right? So this one here, I know that the name is Azure Event Hub, but its event is only from this part, but it is a hub of the events and then people can actually, the services can actually have to pull from it, right? So let's see what this question means. So did we get, guys, the difference between an Azure Event Grid and an Event Hub? So very quickly, I will just go to my portal out here. I want to just make sure we are aware of this. So this is the Azure Event Grid, right? That's Azure Event Grid. It has topics and so on, right? And this is the Event Hub. You can see Event Hub. So Event Grid, Event Hub, Notification Hub, exactly opposite to Event Hubs, right? Okay, so now with that, let us go back again to the question. Let us understand it. If any question, guys, on the Event Grid and the Event Hub, right? Let me know. Yeah, the mock exam. Let me see if I can get something, Certvault. Okay, so Praveen, just I have never looked into mock exams, but I know that one or two websites out there they provide it. Must be Praveen if you can send an email. Divesh, if you can send an email, right? And Certvault is definitely one of them, where you can go. Okay, but I would suggest, guys, just wait for 2 or more sessions out here, because this AZ 204 is a very different beast, So I want that everybody who is looking here for exam clearance only, just go through more 2 or 3 trainings, and then I'm sure that it will work out, right? Let's see any questions around the concept at least. Right. So explain the difference once again. So once again, I'll just explain the difference. Event Grid, I can see that 2-3 guys have pinged me. Please explain the difference. The difference is very clear. The difference is like this. This is Azure Event Grid. The publisher sends a message. The grid sends a message to all the subscribers. This is the Event Grid. Event Hub, the publisher sends a message, but the subscriber has to pull it. So this is an hub. So here this is more of a push to the subscribers, where here it is more of a pull, right? And this is costly, please understand, because there is a lot of effort needed here to push to the subscriber, while this hub one is not really costly as such in terms of the processing and etc. It means in terms of cost. Okay. So that is there. Now let's look at the question again, guys. Let's see the question. Yeah. And we'll do some demonstrations as well. We need to do the demonstrations as well. You are building a traffic monitoring system that monitors traffic along 6 highways. So there are 6 highways out there, and there is time series data. So must be, every minute through all those 6 highways, the data is sent. So assume that, well, this is your Azure Event Hub somewhere here, and from 6 highways there are data which has been pushed here to this hub, right? 7 highways or whatever, 6 highways. Okay. 4, 5, 6. Let's understand the question first. Through the traffic sensors, the data are stored into Azure Event Hub. Traffic data is consumed by 4 departments. So there are 4 departments here, and they are consuming the data. Each department has an Azure application. So there is an Azure web app. Somebody has web jobs and so on. So there are 4 departments, guys. Right, so they are consuming it. So department 1, department 2, department 3, and the same way there can be department 4 as well, right? So they are consuming data here from the web apps, must be from this something, right? And that means that, well, it's going to be a pull. This is actually pulling data out here. This is like sending data, right? Fine. All web apps run on App Service Plan with 3 instances. So these web apps which are running out here, there are 3 instances which they are running on, right? So you need to implement Azure Event Hub, right? And data throughput must be maximum. So maximum data should come in. Latency must be minimized. So as soon as possible, when the data comes inside this grid, it should as soon as possible pick it up, right? And so on, right? So that's a question. And if you see out here, what it says is it has given something like number of partitions, what it should be. So definitely here, the partition should be on the base of highways, frankly, and not on the base of these departments. A lot of people would be tempted to say that department wise we have to consume data. No, you want not department wise, you would like to segregate highways wise, because whatever is the segregation of the source, that is more important if you want speed and if you want maximum throughput, right? So definitely I'll be choosing 6 highways as the answer. So definitely this is the number 6, and I will make the partition on the highway. So what it means is, partition means here is that in the Azure Event Hub, what happens is when the data comes in, so let us say if data is coming from highway 1, so Azure Event Hub, what it will do is it will create a separate partition for H1 data, highway 1. So H1 data will be stored somewhere out here. H2 data will be stored. So when these highways actually go and publish data out here, they will be thrown into separate baskets of H1 and H2. Now that is very easy then, for the subscribers. If let's say you have a subscriber out here, he says that I will only process H1 and H2. So he has to just go and take from this basket and from this basket. So partitions are nothing but, when you have data out there and you want to go and club them up into separate section and process them separately, right? So definitely the partitions have to be 6 and not on the number of servers, because it is very much possible. If you look at the question again, if you read it, one department, can process 2 highway data. It is possible. So rather than putting everything into one basket and then segregating here with the if condition, would be definitely like, when the subscriber is consuming it, if you put here if partition key, this would be more inefficient, right? So segregating it on the Azure Event Hub itself makes it much faster, right? So what we'll do now is, let me go ahead and show a demo, and then I will show you these partition keys as well, right? So the answer is that, but let us see a demo out here. So I'm going to go and create an Azure Event Hub out here. Let's do this very quickly. Once you see the demo, then you will understand, what I mean. So Event Hub, I'm going to go and create an Event Hub. Guys, are we facing any lag? Let me know. Are we facing any lag? Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Amit. So I can see some question here. Yeah, Event Grid works like a publisher subscriber, while Event Hub works only like a publisher, right? That's a good point, someone has made. You can see these kind of personal sentences, this kind of sentences, don't put me on the personal chat, send it out to everyone out there. So yes, so send it out to everyone. So that's a good statement. And it's like, so Azure Event Grid is publisher subscriber, right? But when you talk about Azure Hub, it is just a publisher. It is just a publisher and another person has to pick it up. I don't know if you even call them as a subscriber, but they have to pick them up from one partition on another partition, right? There is a question here, sir. It's 3 web app instances. Yeah, but there are 3 web app instances. You are right, Amit. We have 3 web app instances, but let us say one web app instance want to process partition from 2 data, from 2 partitions, I'm sorry. So then what you have to do, he has to read from both the partitions and then do the segregation. Wouldn't it be good saying that, okay, you are server 1 or you are, department 1, and let us say you are looking after 3 highways. So I will send you the data of all the 3 highways. Rather than taking all the highway data and then making an if condition in his subscriber code out there, it is better to do the partitions on the top level only. So I think whatever is the event source, it should be partition per event source. So per event highway, that is more efficient as compared to the department. The departments are subscribers. So at the subscriber level, having a partition in this case does not make sense, right? Okay. Both of them are parallelism. Both of them imply parallelism. Yes. Yeah, we have to do nothing in the code as such. But if you don't provide, so we have to do nothing in the code if you provide partition keys. If you do not provide partition keys, then you have to write an if condition saying that if highway 1, highway 2, then you have to make an if condition, right? When you create a partition, you get a separate endpoint. I want to make this point very clear. When you create a partition out there, so when you create an Azure partition, that's what the throughput is. It's 2 minutes. I would like to just show this here. So here is your Azure Event Hub, right? When you actually create a partition, what it does is for partition 1, he will create a separate endpoint. When you create a partition, there will be a separate endpoint. So that highway guy, that highway stream of data can just push it to this partition, right? And then the subscriber can just read from it. So in the other case, what happens is if you don't have a partition, you just have one big endpoint out here and everybody is pushing data into this. And there is no partition actually, right? So creating partition creates different endpoints where people can publish and the subscriber can subscribe from there, right? So with all that, let us go here. You can see I'm creating a new event hub here, event hub, not an event grid. I repeat that, event hub, not an event grid. So here I will say, I will just give a name as delete this. So I can delete all this, as soon as my demo finishes. I've just given a group out there, which I can go and delete it. So I'll just request point. Now remember that, this Azure Event Hub, right? Specifically partitions you cannot do on basic. You have to use standard. If you don't have standard, it will not work out, right? So there it is, right? You can see here there are this the throughput units, right? So at this moment I've given it as 1. Must be, as he said, that he needs a maximum throughput. One of the things which I will also configure here is like throughput is equal to 7, right? If I want it, right? But at this point I'll just keep it 1 because he has said that I need maximum throughput. I would actually configure 7 throughputs if in the question, if there was saying that what will you configure, right? I would have configured 7 throughputs as well, right? But that is fine. Nothing is given out there, so I can use the partition key and do it efficiently. Create this. So here it is. I have created an event hub, right? Also, what we will do is, so we will do the following exercise. So this is an event hub out here, and we will create a C# console client out there, and we will publish data to this event hub. So this is the goal out here. So we have made an event hub there called as QuestPond, right? I will write a nice C# application out here, which will actually go and publish event to this event hub. And also he will read it later on, right? Through partitions. Okay. So with this, we can have an idea that how it is publishing to a partition. It is how it is consuming from a partition. Okay. So that's the goal. So here it is deployment in progress. Now inside this same document, what I've done is I've just put a link here, which tells us, how to go ahead and use Event Hub in C#. So I'm going to go and use this, and I will follow this like a blind person. Right? So there it is. .NET Azure send events to the Azure Event Hub, right? And so on. And this is this. So let me go and create my console application. So until that Event Hub gets created, how about going and creating console application and just keeping it ready out there, right? So create a new project. Let's make it .NET Core. Now henceforth, just select .NET Core and console application 27. And let's keep checking at the backend. Yeah, I can see that this is completed. The Azure Event Hub is done. So in this now, so this is the Azure Event, the Event Hub namespace. Please note, this is the namespace, not actually the Event Hub. This is the namespace. Namespace means you will say that this will handle inventory events. So now inventory events means somebody will say, this is incoming inventory, this is outgoing inventory. So you can have a namespace, and in that you will have an hub. So you can see this is a namespace. So I will go and I will add an event hub out here, and you can see the partition counts out there. I will just make it 2, right? So how much days you want the message to be retained? So I'll just say that keep the messages for 1 day. Capture. Now what happens is, once the event comes in, what if you want to go and capture this data and store it into a blob? Assume if you want to do it, right? At this moment, I don't want to capture those events or store it anywhere, but I'll just say off, right? See what happens is, there are lots of things out there. For example, that day, I saw like the Azure, the stock market, one of the country's stock market is built around Event Hub and Event Grid. They just migrated it. In that, there were lots of event coming in, like saying this is the stock ticker, it has gone up. This is the stock ticker, which has gone down. Huge events were getting pushed in, and they wanted to ensure that we don't lose anything. So they were using one more backup here at the backup called as Azure Storage, where they were just keeping it in case just for audit trail and so on, right? So at this moment, I don't intend to do that. I've just kept partition count as 2. Remember that you will not get this in basic. You have to select standard, right? So I will just say this is West Pond Highway. So this is the endpoint of West Pond Highway. I'll just say create. So I have these 2 partitions inside this. So there it is, Event Hub is created, right? So West Pond Highway, that's the Event Hub, right? And in this, you can go and you can add a consumer group here. I have a default one, but now, so more partitions. Let me talk about this consumer group. They have created lots of classification. So what you can do here is inside the Event Hub. So you have this Event Hub first thing. Well, you have an event namespace. Inside this, you have an Event Hub. Let us say Hub 1. Like I created West Pond Highway. Inside this, now this hub, can have groups as well. Like he'll say that on this hub, I'll have group 1 and I will have group 2, and there is a default group. So, and then you can have another hub 1 and hub 2, right? So what people can do is they can actually go and send a message to a particular group, also. And these groups can have partitions internally, right? So you can see that if you wish, you can go and you can create a new group if you want, but at this moment, I'll just take the default one. So that's that group out there. You can add a consumer group from here. Okay, so it looks like this is all good. And let's give a shared access policy to this. Let us give a shared access policy at the top, so that we can use it for everyone. So I'm going to go and add a shared access policy saying that policy 1 or West Pond Hub policy. A policy is nothing but, it says that if some client is going and subscribing to this or using this, right? Do you want him to manage the queues? Do you want to give and just send or listen? So I'll just say I want to send and listen, if he uses this policy, we'll just create. So if this policy, when I create this policy, right, what it does is it creates a connection string for this policy. And that connection string, when I give it to someone, he will follow that policy, right? So you can see here now we have this root manage shared access key, which has manage, send and listen. But if you look at the West Pond Hub policy, it has only send and listen. So if I give this connection string to any client, he will just have the rights to do send and listen, right? So I want to do send and listen. I don't want him to manage. Management, I will do it from the Azure portal, right? I don't want it to be too dynamic. So I have the connection string. I have a hub inside it, right? I'm all set. Okay, so now I'll go out here. So let us see now what kind of code we have to write. So what I'll do first is I will go and I will publish it to the Azure Hub, right? So let us go and follow the tutorial like a blind person. So I have created this one. So he says that add this Azure Messaging Event Hub. So that's the namespace. Fine. So let me go to my nugget out here and let's start doing that. Step by step, slow by slow. Let's do this. Manage nugget packages. Remember guys, once you do a demo and then you see the question, it will be very, very clear. If you just read the question and if you just by heart the answers, you won't enjoy giving the certification, right? So I would suggest, even if you get passing marks also, it is okay, right? But if you just go and mug up the dumps and something like that, it won't help, right? So I can see that a lot of our students out here has given the exams just for everyone's information. A lot of people have given AZ 900 and also AZ 204. I would like to tell this to everyone. I know that this is, I'm interrupting in between. AZ 204, we have like 7 or 8 students who have passed. Well, everybody has got 80, almost like 80%. I'll say. When I say 80 means 80%. The remaining 20%, there were fresh questions, which probably I did not cover in this class or whatever, right? But one of our friends have also got 90% as well, in the exam. So I would suggest, guys, just try to do as much as demos as possible. But almost everyone has got 70 to 90 range. For AZ 900, forget it. The whole world is passing in AZ 900. I won't comment about it. So that's the AZ 204 internal Questpond people who have given the exam. So guys, I'm adding this Azure Event Hub out there. I'll just accept it. Okay, and here it is, program.cs. I'm all ready. Okay, I'm all set. Let us see what code I have to write. So I need the connection string and I need the event hub name. Fine, I have the connection string. Remember, I created a policy. So there was a connection string created. I have the event hub, Questpond event hub, right? That is all there. And I can see some code out here. Let us do like this. Let us copy this code shamelessly. Let us paste it here. So let me create a new method here saying static void send, right? I'll just paste it out here. Send event to hub, whatever, right? And this is await because everything is going to be asynchronous. So let's make this method as async. Await and async goes in pair. Definitely, these are the classes, wherein we need to refer the Azure Messaging Event Hub. So we can just go and click on this and then we'll understand this code, what is written out here. So let me very, very quickly just get all these red signs wiggled off. Good. We also need the connection string. So I'm going to go and take the connection string from our portal. So that is the connection string. I can take the primary connection string out here and just paste it. Right. I will need the event hub name. Right. Now remember that you can always go and put in app config file and so on. I'm not doing it now. So event hub name, overview, where is the event hub? Questpond Highway. Oh gosh, what a name I've given. Questpond Highway. Okay. So inside Questpond namespace, we have Questpond Highway. So this can be like Questpond Highway 1. We'll see that the partition part, right? So here it is. You can see now you can send individual events or you can send in batch. So first thing what he's doing is that he's creating an event producer client. So this is the client, the class, which will help you to connect to the hub as well as to the whole namespace, right? And he's creating an event batch and he has added like first event, second event, third event, and then finally he's sending all the 3 events in one go. So it is possible that you just collect events and then you just send it in one go to the Azure Event Hub, right? So, and what I will do is I can just go and do a console.read here so that we can just make this application stop. Why? Because until all the messages are not sent, I don't want to exit this console application, right? So you can see here I'm calling this send event to hub, right? And that's where it is. So very easy. Event data to create a single event data and event batch if you want it, right? And then finally saying send async. Now coming to the main point. If you want to go and send it to the partition, what you can do is like, let's say this event I have this here, new event data. If I want to send it to a specific partition which I've created, what I can do is I can say pat1 event is equal to new event data. And then I can say this event, send it to a specific partition key. You can see that there is a partition key which is seen out there where you can go and you can send it. At this point, I'll not do it. I'll not do anything. We'll see this. But that is how you can send from the client side. So coming to that application, the 7 highways. So he will have probably 7 console applications or 7 applications who are listening and saying push, 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 right? Every application will have a partition key. And wherever they push, it just goes and lands into that bucket of the Azure Event Hub. And my subscriber will read as per the partitions if they want it, right? So we'll see this part later on. So I'm going to go and just comment it. Let's try to just send an event and check first, because even I'm like, I'll not say I'm doing it first time, but I'm doing it after a lot of months out here. So let us see if this really works or not. So send event hub. Nowadays, the docsmicrosoft.com has really become very precise. Means I copy the code and it works, right? That was never the case in MSDN. I'll send this here. Okay, let's see. Once I send from here, I can go and I can check on the portal. This is the sending part, guys. Then we look at the listening part as well. The listening part is very interesting. It is different. It is not like just event. So sent event, and you can see now that event is still being sent. Okay, now it has gone. You can see if my console application did not have a console application.read, those 3 batch events won't have gone, right? So it looks like the batch events have reached the server. So let us go to our server and let's do a refresh out here on this West Point Highway. Guys, please put down your questions, whatever it is. We can just discuss after this sending, So you can see here there are 3 events, which I can see, which have come in, right? So 1 and 2, and well, those are the bytes, but those are the incoming messages, which I can see out there, the captured messages. Okay. So yeah, we can't read the event. For reading part, we have to go and write another code, right? And everything has come into the default group. So guys, any questions on this code out here? How to go and send the event, send to the hub? No, there are no topics here, Amit. So here, well, we can create a topic, but there are more partitions. It's more about partitions here. Here, consumer group is, so consumer, okay. So we can say that consumer group is like a main, yeah, you can say that, yes. Consumer group means the person who is actually using that, so it's just a classification. Consumer group and what do you call your partitions are classifications actually. Classifications and sub-classifications. You can think in terms of the topics as well. No, this is not two-way communication. So here it is two-way means when I send an event out there, it does not, it means I cannot go and keep an application running saying that now that event hub will send a message. So Kumar, that will not happen. I have to go and pull now. The event is now residing. The event is now residing out there. I have to actually pull. Yes. No, service bus is a queue. Okay, I think we should discuss this. Service bus. Hang on. Lots of confusion. Actually, when they give this name as service bus, then people think, oh, bus means events, because remember there are queues in Azure. Queues means which do that first in first out kind of things, and there are publisher subscriber mechanisms which is events actually, right? So this is the publisher and subscriber. So in that terms, what Azure has given here is, one is Azure has given the storage queues. So you can use the storage queues, right? But in the storage, so this is a queue, please understand, this is not an event actually. A queue means here we are more related to data. This is where you have the service bus also. The service bus is like a queue, but it is more professional. Here we have many to many queues, means I can send like the top one, this as storage queue here, you send a message and there is only one subscriber. But in case of service bus, I can send a message and there are multiple subscribers to it, but it is a queue, it is FIFO. This is an event. So queues you will use, when you wish to send a lot of data. It is not an event. Event means click, double click. Queue means I'm sending you customer object. I'm sending you supplier object. It does not talk about. It is not an event. So I don't know if you can just close your eyes and think about event versus data. So this is actually an event. This is an data actually, and FIFO style data. Here we have the Azure Event Grid. Right? And we also have this Azure Event Hub. So that is the difference here. Event, again, as I've said, it is like one to many. And here it's a publisher subscriber, but in this case it is like this, Event Hub, right? So just clarifying that everything is different. All these four things are different. When you pick them up, you have to pick as per your needs. And from the cost perspective, remember that Service Bus is 5 times costlier than Storage Cubes. Azure Event Grid is at least twice costlier than Event Hub. So be very careful in what solution you are choosing. Right? So there's a good question here from Mani sir, and we can just have a look at this. And then we'll go and write the receive part. Okay. But for the entire day to catch the information of 6 highway, there will be no loop running. There will be no loop running. There are separate HTTP endpoints. There are separate HTTP endpoints. So when he publishes it, it just goes into that partition. Partition is like a physically allocated, I'll not say physical, well, an allocated unit, which is very specific for that highway. So there will be no loop running for entire day in the program. Oh, the program sending messages, yes, yeah, that is not our concern. So yes, the program sending message. Oh, sorry, I thought in the server side. No, yeah, that's right. Somebody has to actually go and keep sending me data. Absolutely, that is there. But see, the program sending the messages is not running on Azure. It is running on their highway machines. I don't know wherever it is. So it really does not concern about Azure. Here, what Azure is saying is that maximum throughput. I should be able to send 1 crore records in one highway, and it should just go in. And it can only go in when you have a separate partition, a separate group also as well. I would really configure even the groups also separately. It is not about how much you can push. It is about that how much Azure can consume as well, right? So that's where the partition comes into picture. So look from the point of Azure. Yes, that's what this. If you want to push in a group or in a batch, you can use the batch from here and make it efficient and not ping always. If you want, you can use that. But let's say that he can publish 1 lakh records out there, but can Azure consume it? If it does not have separate partition, you cannot. For example, I'll tell you here, look at this. Try to do this, and I tried it. You can see that there is a throttling message. It does not show it here. Somewhere, there are 2 partitions out here. There is incoming request, and there was a throttling message. Throttling message, if you go and try to push, let's say 10,000 records, which I was doing yesterday, I saw that a lot of messages incoming, and then some messages were throttled. They were waiting. They were waiting to get in because the partition was full for whatever reason, right? So fine. So this is done. Now, how about receiving the events, guys? Let us go and look at the receive event part. Now, receiving the events is quite tricky actually. You don't want to lose any events. For example, from the highway, if you capture some events, you don't want to lose any kind of events of the highway, because if you lose some events out there, you can make a mistake, right? So what they do out here is that when you read an event, now example for here, he has added this event in a batch. So I want to receive that whole event in a batch, like a transaction. I don't want just the first event is received and then suddenly something gets knocked off and I have half data, right? So what they do out here is, they keep a track of, have you received the full event or not? How do you say it? Like, how can we see in database we have that, right? I forgot the name. In between of the transactions, checkpoints, become old, checkpoints. So we say that, okay, have you sent him all 1 message, 2 message, 3 message, right? Something happened bad on the second message. Oh, like then don't delete the queue, right? So what it does is, when he receives the message out here, so let's say he receives the first message, right? He goes and sends back a message. This client actually sends back a message to the Azure saying that I've received the first message, right? And here, you have to go and put this information somewhere into a blob saying that he received 1 message. Fine. Now, how about this second? Oh, he received the second message as well. Third. Once third is done, right? Then after that, this Azure, the event hub, what it will do is it will just go to the blob and say, okay, all the 3 are done. The blob will actually send a message. He will then go and delete that message from the, from the event hub, or else it will not. So basically, we also need a kind of a persistent mechanism in between to just track that if a batch of events which are sent as 1 transaction, he should receive in 1 transaction, right? So let us check that how to do that. So that means that the first thing is I need to go and create an Azure event blob. So let's go and create a container. So blob container out here, storage account. Again, let me put all this in, delete this. After the lecture, I'll delete it. So I'll say this is QuestPond storage. Let's keep it standard. Review and create it. Remember, we need a blob in this. So we are creating a storage account, and inside this, we'll go and we'll create a blob. So that is get created, getting created, right? Okay, so until this happens here, until this container gets created, let us go and see the code for receiving the event. So we can just scroll below, receive events, there it is. And to receive the events, we need the Azure messaging event processor. Okay, so there is a namespace out there. We have already added this namespace. It is already done in the previous lab. So I'll just go and take this one, very easy. Manage NuGet packages. I have been doing a lot of Amazon recently, and I've found that Azure is damn user friendly. Amazon is great in terms of also costing, but at some moment of time you feel that, okay, I'll pay that extra 5% and I will take this luxury what is provided here of this ease of ease of loading, is the tight integration with C# as well, the awesome namespaces. So right, so here it is. So okay, so there it is. I've added that and some code out. You can see now, that's good. He has given you a blob storage connection string and a container name as well. So we need to have the blob storage as well. So let us see if a blob has, if a storage account has got created. It is created out here. Inside this, we will go and we'll create a blob container. So you can see I'm going and creating a container out here, and we'll just make it as a public container, a public blob, QuestPond blob. Right. And I'll just create it. I'll say anonymous access. Anyone can read it who has a connection string, not a problem. Right, so we have the QuestPond blob out here, and we can go and we can access this, right? So to access this again, we need to go and get the access keys from here. So this is the connection string. So right, so we have all the things at place. Okay, so let us go now here and create. Let's see the code out there. Where is the tutorial? Here it is. Okay. First thing I definitely need. First thing, let's look at this. So here is a method. So he's creating an event. Let me go and copy this. So the way I've created send event hub. How about going and creating static void receive event? Receive. Definitely a lot of async await in between, so we have to also make this as async. Now you can see the first thing is he's taking the default consumer name, default consumer group name. But if you think that no, like I want to have my own consumer name, you can use that. So I'm going to go and take the default name, whatever it is. Remember, the default name is by the name $default. You can see here at the right hand side, $default, right? I also need now references of Azure storage blobs as well. So I can just go and say, okay, Azure storage blob. So one is we need the connection string. Remember, Azure storage blob is needed. Why? Because you want to go and track, if all the events have been received or not. So I'll just copy this. Guys, I'm hard coding it at this moment so that. And I think the name of the blob was QuestPond blob, QuestPond blob. So let me just check QuestPond blob. Yes, it's QuestPond blob. They have also documented the code. So this is the blob container client. This is the consumer group. So I'm going to go and create an object of event processor client. You can see there's an event processor client out here, which actually will process the events which are received from the Azure Event Hub. And also we need to provide the connection string of the hub name as well, right? So I'm going to go and take the same connection string out here and West Point Highway. Let's see, just paste it here. I'm sorry for all the hard coding, but I hope everybody's understanding it. We need this task. You can see now, now we need two events as well, right? One is the event which is for the error, and the another one is the event which is successful. So when we receive the event, if we get an error for some reason, like key not found or partition key is not existing, server is down. So something, you know, for the process, this is the success process, this is the error. So what I'll do is, I'm sure they must have made the methods. You can see those are the methods. Now, I will not go too much into these methods out here, but we can just look at the success method. In the success method, you can see there is an event args out here, which actually belongs to the event hub processor. So from that, we are just extracting the data, the array of data. Remember, we'll be receiving array of data from there if you're trying to read a full batch, right? So you can see array of data, and we are just going and doing console.writeLine. And we definitely need system.threading task, you know, to get all these task exceptions going on, right? And this is the processor error handler, right? And the message, what we can see out here, right? So, and you can see here, it starts the processing, and we are putting a delay of 10 seconds out here. So what I can do is I can just expand this for, must be 10 seconds. Oh, that's too much. So I can just expand it for 60 seconds. I just want to make sure that all the messages are read. Today my internet connection is also down, so I'm just, so start the processing. Once it finishes, stop the processing, right? So very easy, you can see again. The only catch here is that you need to create a blob container client, you know, so that you can have checkpoints, right? So event, one is that you give the group, you give the storage client where you want to go and put your checkpoints, connection string of the hub, and the hub name, right? And we'll go and we'll call here receive event, and we'll just make the console application wait out there, and we can go and put a debug point here in the process event handler, right? So let us go and run this. I hope everything runs. Build solution. I'll just build the solution as well here, right? And I'll do an F5. So you can see now the client is actually reading. My client, he did not send a message to my client really. My client is actually trying to read from there. It is like a pull is doing it, right? Okay, what happened? Oh, there it is. That's why I know my internet is slow. Second event. If I go and stop this in between, for some reason, if I go and stop this in between, it will keep a checkpoint onto the blob storage client, and he will read the messages again from the first, and he will not delete it. Remember, guys. So, but at this moment, all the three messages have been received, first, second, and third. That also means that from the server side, it would have been deleted. So if I go on my Azure Event Hub out there, I should really see those messages getting deleted. So I can go to my West Point Highway out there, and those are the incoming requests. Somewhere there is message. Current messages, refresh. There was somewhere here, you know, it has the message. I don't see any messages now, but it tells you that how many messages are alive at this moment. These are incoming requests now, guys. Don't confuse it with messages. Why don't I see it? I don't know why. I'm blind. Leave it. Guys, you guys figure it out. Yes. Okay, so guys, just figure it out. Like I don't know. There was somewhere here. There was this Azure. Yeah, I saw the consumer group. Nothing is there out there. Somewhere. Yeah, should I go on the West Point Highway? Sorry, on the quest point. I have to be, this is on the group. I am on the group actually. No, it's not on the, this is the message retention. And you know, somebody's, not somebody, but there are some services which are pinging here, I can see. Okay, somewhere this. Must be it has retained my message for 1 day. Probably if I just don't keep that, if I make it 0, must be it will just show you 0 message retained. Somewhere that thing was. Okay guys, let me not get a hangover of it. No, it is not there, Amit, in the consumer groups. It's consumer groups, that's just the name. I can't really click on that. And this is the consumer group, right? West Point Highway is where you can see at this moment, I am on the consumer group, which is default. So this is the default consumer group. It should show me here. Fine. Okay, let's not get a hangover of this. Fine. Figure it out, guys. Figure it out. No, you can't click it. I mean, you can't click it. It's too much Azure and Amazon on the head. Guys, remember, I'm not really an Azure expert. Let me clarify this. Means yes, I do a lot of practice in Azure. I do a lot of practicals in Azure, and also I run a lot of projects also. You know, so that's why I know these clicks where to do. But there are so many services out there, it is so difficult to remember anything. That's why most of the time either I have to do copy paste from Docs Microsoft, or I use the online help, and sometimes I get confused, you know, if I don't see some of the things out there. Okay, here let's look at the question here. Azure Bus and Queue. So let's try to see your understanding is right. Bus and queue. Push message to the queue from one application and polling from if any message is this. No, you have confused the queues and the events actually. Bus and queue is to push message to queue service. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, I didn't get this sentence. I'm sorry. Trying to understand it. Okay. Okay, you had put something, Prabha. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Prabha. I copied your half message. That was for the bus. Okay, here it is. Okay, let me see if your understanding is right. Azure Event Hub and Grid. Push message to the hub from one application and firing the event handler against the hub from the another application. Absolutely. But no, like push the message to the grid from one application and sending again the firing the event out against another application. This is true only for grid. This is true only for grid. For hub, push the message to the hub. Let me correct it. Push the message to the hub from one application like we did now, and read the message from the hub. And the other application has to read the message. I hope this is understood, Prabha. I just corrected it. Push the message to the queue, again like queue from one application, and polling queue from another application, absolutely. And polling queue from only one application, let me correct this as well, from only one application can poll it, right? Push the message to a service bus from one application, right? And even many applications actually, and send and many applications can poll from the queue, like a one-to-many. So you can think about Azure, that's Azure Service Bus is like one-to-many. Okay. Okay, so I've just corrected it, you know, to best of my knowledge. Yeah. So okay, so guys, we have so partition key again, like I think we have only 5 minutes left. You know, I won't go into partition key, but guys, here it is. Try this out. Try to send it to a partition by using that event data. If you remember, I showed an event data out here. Try this out. I will not do it now, but try this out. So if you go and if you send, if you want, you can go and send here this event data to a particular partition. You can see this is the partition key out here. So try to send it out there, and then in the receiver, you say that I want to only subscribe to one partition. the receiver has to say, or I'll say I'm reading from one partition. So that you have to provide it in the event processor client. So in the event processor client, you will say, I want to subscribe to the only one partition out there, right? So guys, I know that today we just did one question, but this question out here, I hope now is very clear. You are building a traffic monitoring system. You are from the traffic monitoring system has probably 6 clients. They are pushing data to the Azure Event Hub. The Azure Event Hub, we have web jobs, we have Azure web apps that are consuming those data. So there are 4 departments who are using this web jobs. So must be one web job is consuming two data from there, right? So how many things you will select out here? You will select 6 partitions, and highway will be your partition key. So you will say highway 1, highway 2, and highway 3. So guys, any questions here? Yes. No, message broker, Shailendra, I think is like a one-to-many message broker. That's like one-to-many. Okay, so that's a good question. I can talk about that because I'm working, Amit, on both Azure as well as Amazon, so I can answer this question. It's, believe me, this this cost factor. I know that a lot of people think that Amazon could be cheaper because it is Java, right? It is Python or something. No, it is not like that. It depends on how the person configures it. As it depends on how the person configures. Believe me, this statement out there, it is not about that Amazon is cheaper or not. Like, for example, if somebody out there is very rich, it does not mean that he has to spend too much money to get a cycle. He can get a simple cycle if he wants, right? What I'm saying is that it is about the person who is configuring it. I have seen, like, I know, at least from my understanding here, I've seen that good architects or people who do good Azure provisioning, their cost is cheaper than the Azure because than Amazon, because the person who has configured Amazon has just selected the services with default values. For example, I'll tell you, like here it is. Here's a very simple example. I've hosted a live server out here. This is my portal.azure.com. I'll just give you an example out here. We hosted Postgre. We had a web app out here, which is called as Feva. This is the Feva app service, which I have here, right? This so this Feva is a hospital system, which is for something for video calling between doctors, etc. This was hosted on Amazon by one of our friends, and he just selected something by default here and there and this, right? And we wanted Postgre, so we thought Postgre, it is cheaper on Amazon. So everybody went, and all my BODs, my board of directors, and my technical friends, and even I got carried away saying, okay, let's use that. And we found Postgre is costly out there. It does not have that configuration that how Microsoft has it here, right? So here what I did now, if you look at Postgre, look at the way I configured it. So my front-end server is ASP.NET Core in this. My back-end server is Postgre. I hosted on Amazon, and I was getting a bill of approximately 2,500 per month. So 30,000 rupees for the full year. And we wanted that server to be near to somewhere in US. So that's why we chosen Amazon or Azure as a cloud. We don't want any kind of downtime. And this server was a testing server. Even though if it is a testing server, we still don't need any downtime. So that's why we did not select any local provider. You can always get a good local provider from Bangalore, which can add in 15-20,000 yearly, he can give you a nice server, right? But we know that the local Bangalore providers and or any Indian provider in Hyderabad, etc., they are resellers. So what happens is if something goes down there, you don't have any option. They just say, we can't help you, which is not in case of Azure and Amazon. They have SLAs, right? So we decided we'll go on cloud. So 2005, approximately 20, 30,000, 25,000 was the cost out there. This was a test server. So what I did out here is when I went to this kind of configuration, I did not get in Amazon, frankly. I did all of my R&D. So when I went out here, I said, okay, I want to go and create an app service. Look at this, the way I've selected it. So I said, I want to go and this is a Feva app service here. Now, let us start slowly, miserly. We know that this is a test server. I knew that we had only 10 or 15 clients who will be using it. And they normally test once the doctors come from the hospital in the evening, they test these servers, and then once the test is done, then we will go live, right? So what I did is, when I went out here and I selected this, so I'll just delete this afterwards. Let's say this is my website name, whatever, WinPro or something. I selected .NET 3.11. So it is about how you choose. I just want to make that statement very clear. It's not about Amazon or this. And what I did is when I selected this one here, you look at this, I can go and I can select a big service plan out here. Look at this. What I did out here is, but I did not select a premium one. This is what people make a mistake. So a lot of people don't know that they have also given you test servers out here. So you can see this is production servers, very costly, almost like 9,000 rupees per month, you know. Yeah, and the minimum starts from this standard one, which is 5,000 rupees. But in the dev and test, you have this 1 GB memory of server out here, which is having 60 minutes of free compute space, compute time, which was very enough for this one, right? And I chose this one. Now, what I mean to say out here is that it is not about that I definitely in Amazon, I didn't find this configuration for .NET Core, frankly, first point, right? Now let me go to Postgre. I went and say, okay, I want to use Postgre. Then I went to Amazon out there. If you select Postgre out there, right? So Postgre, Postgre, Azure Database Postgre. You will find here nice two options out here, you know, which is like one is for the standard ones, one is for the big ones. So simple ones out here. So if you see a Postgre standalone, just give me 2 minutes. I'll just show you how this costing works. In this, you know, in this PC, I don't have my Amazon account stored, or else I would have showed you the cost in Amazon as well. When you want it, it does not work. Let me hit again. Today my internet is bad. Azure Postgres servers. Add. What happened? Why is this dot moving at the top? Let's give it a minute. Okay, here it is. Now look at this. One is they have this hyperscale server out there. Definitely you're not going to choose this, right? You'll choose this one, single server, right? I'll select a single server, fine. In this again, please start looking at all the options. Don't select just what you want to select. You can see he's giving me 4 core 100 GB. I'll say, oh, like I don't want 4 core, simple server. Must be I need just 5 GB of data, right? So what I do is that I say, okay, I don't want these 4 cores. So you can see a general purpose. I say I want to go to basic. Even in basic, I don't want 2 cores. Look at the cost. Look at the cost, how drastically, if I go to general purpose out there, look at this, 4,000 rupees is the cost. So I go to basic out here, I say, oh, like I just want more cheaper, like, because I just want 10, 15 doctors in the evening time, they will log in, right? And this is 50 GB RAM, I can just keep it. So if you see now that cost is coming down so much, and remember, this cost is not in, this is the maximum cost depending on the CPU core being used. So if I see my bill now, this is my ASP.NET Core with no SQL Server with Postgre, right? So when I go to Azure out here, I'm not trying to market Azure here, frankly, definitely. But then some of the costs are very cheaper in Amazon as well, right? So if I see my bill of the last month out here, this is my bill of the current month, it has again come down. The Postgre is almost, this is again, now I'm going to think about it. So, but if you see my Azure App Service, for the full month, I have used it. This Azure App Service I used for the full month, 13 rupees is my cost. Free server. Now coming to this 871 rupees, which definitely I don't want. Remember, my clients are very rich. You know, if I tell them they will buy me a whole server, the point is not how much money they have. It is a test server. They want that it should not be down. They want it near Seattle so that they can test it. Almost all the doctors are in Seattle. 870 rupees. I'm working on this now, and I've thought that this one I will go and I will host it into that Bangalore cloud, which is I'm getting at 2,000 rupees. So what I'm trying to say here is that answering this question, which I know that in terms of RAD, I will give all plus points to Azure if it is C#, rapid application development. All plus points if it's C#, Azure. Other technologies very bad. Java on Azure, horrible. I've done it. PHP on Azure, horrible. Python on Azure, horrible. Actually, it has its own issues. With time, I think they will figure it out, right? On Amazon, there is no agnostic. They are not agnostic to Java, etc. But I found that for Java and other technologies, open source technologies, they have done a lot of homework. But for C#, they did not really help out too much, right? So from RAD for C#, this is good. Now, this cost and operation, right? Really, that this is very subjective, very, very subjective. Nobody can make a ballpark statement saying that Amazon is cheaper and then Azure is costlier, or Azure is cheaper, Amazon is costlier. For example, I'll tell you, if you see the Azure event grids, the Amazon event grids, very cheaper there. service was very cheaper, right, as compared to Azure, even if you take the lowest price out there. And also they have some of the free things also out there, which Azure does not have. So I think it depends upon that how miserly, I will not use the word miserly, or how do you say it, how efficiently you manage your server. So remember, I've seen people hosting in 1,000 rupees also properly on web app out there, which even GoDaddy cannot do it for you. So it all depends on how you look at it, but that's the answer out there. Yeah, money configuration is very important. You should think like a miser architect. You know, this is the thing I get from my Azure guru, who's actually the creator of Azure as well. So I'm very lucky to be in connection with him. And he always tells me, Shiv, try to be a miser. When you come here as pay as you go, how do you do it in Ola? You do it yourself in Ola. You try to take the shared cab. You try to do something, you know, some other things out there. Try to put a coupon code, right? The same things, the same kind of this miser attitude is important out here.